Welcome to Firm Excellence module number 6, and we are so excited about all the things we're going to be sharing with you this week as we get into module number 6 of Firm Excellence. And as always, we've got so much to share with you, and we're excited about starting the year as we mean to go on and being really focused on all that it is that we're doing here with Firm Excellence. So like the last couple of weeks, even the ones we did in December, I want to just remind you that please do refer to your thought binder. We're going to be pointing to that as we go through. And this week, as we start 2017, we're really excited because we're taking a real look into the future, into what this year can have. And I believe we're going to be sharing with you some stuff that is going to really equip you to start the year in top gear. Now, we really do hope that you've had a spectacular start to the year, and all of us at RLC are looking forward to sharing with you the insights that we've been applying rigorously to the start of our year. Now, of course, over the last few weeks, we've done loads of different things. This session today is housed in a very peculiar view. Hopefully you can all see that. It's housed inside the front of a car. Now, Sean, just as we get going, can you see the car okay?
Yes.
Brilliant. Now, there's a particular reason why we've used the car as an example. You see, when you look at this picture, I'd like you to stop for a moment and notice all of the things you can see. Now, and I want you just to stay in that car mindset. So what is the car telling us? Now, I'd like you all just to take a look really closely and notice literally every bit of detail that's in the cockpit of the car. You have a whole list of things ranging from the road to the journey, to the nature, to the trees, to the crash barrier. You've got other things like the steering wheel. You've also got the dashboard, the windscreen, the mirror, navigation, the sun visors. You've got control buttons. You've got temperature dials. You have air vents. And you also have side windows, extra lighting, instruments, glove boxes, volume. I think I've got most of them. The point I'd like to make is, and even if you've listed even more, is that manufacturers from all over the world spend millions of pounds designing these arenas, whether you're driving on the right-hand side of the road or whether you're driving on the left-hand side of the road. They're designed to protect us as human beings, and they're designed to make things easy to use so that the driver can see all that they need every time they drive without any confusion and, of course, limited moments of danger. This dashboard is a little bit similar to how we as humans see the world. Imagine that that dashboard is your eyes and how you look out into the world every day. And in fact, think about that for a moment. If you were to imagine the last time you drove your car, the last time you maybe drove into work, even today, and you're sitting in your own car seat and you start to familiarize yourself with that arena and what's around you and what you're looking at. Now let's imagine that, of course, that arena and that windscreen, as you're looking out, is your life. If the windscreen represented the view of your future, if the windscreen represented how you see your life going better, your business growing, your clients being delighted with you, what should be on that dashboard? You see, I find that if you start thinking about in Firm Excellence, what is your Firm Excellence dashboard and what is your Payroll Vault dashboard and windscreen, what are some of the things that could be on it so far? Here are a couple of things that could be on your dashboard. And of course, you'll see on today's dashboard as you take a closer look, there are lots of things from this week's module, which is built around one of our products, ICANN, that are built into this for you, which we're going to work our way through together. Here's a list of some of the things you could have on your Payroll Vault dashboard. Number one, language. Have you applied and are you applying the language you need to have to succeed in your life? Here's another one, beliefs. Do you know what yours are yet? Here's another one, goals. Have you set goals for 2017? And if so, how many have you done? Many of you have made a great start working through the fast forward goals from the previous sessions. I'd like to encourage you to continue to do that. Working on those goal cards allows you to be more specific and focused in your business and in your firm. We then have, of course, the alignment stuff we spoke about last time. Have you taken the time to map out your business strategy for 2017 and beyond? Have you thought about the vision you have for your firm and your people this year? And of course, do you have the right level of imagery available to motivate you, whether that's memory boards, goals you want to attain, things that inspire you in your cockpit and on your windscreen every single day? If you think of your cockpit and your windscreen also as being something that's similar to sitting at your desk, what do you see when you sit at your desk? What do you have around you? Do you have a clear desk policy? Are you setting yourself up into an environment where you can, of course, succeed? Right at the beginning of Firm Excellence, we shared with you the importance of RAS, your brain's reticular activation system, and the importance of loading up on a daily basis that superpower, which is known as your single point of focus, even if it's just your goal for that day. May I remind you, as we dive into this fantastic module, to take the time once again to set your own windscreen, to set your view, to be in the right arena and to have the right settings, and to get yourself ready to challenge yourself as we step into the world of this car, and in particularly the ICANN module number 6. But I'd like to ask you something before we do. We're going to show you today, in a moment, a critical video, a video from an individual in the United States of America, an upcoming talent, which I'm going to point to in a moment's time, who is going to share with you a famous coaching story around an interaction with a guru in the world today. But I'd like to ask you, first of all, before we do that, and before we use the GPS coordinates that have been set on this navigation bar to take you from where we are, I'd like you to ask you one question. How obsessed are you with life? Now let's pause for a moment. That's a huge question. Are you obsessed enough? I remember once one of my mentors was meeting with somebody I know very, very closely who had this big, lofty ambition to become an airline pilot. And this chap was really curious as to whether he should change his career completely to become this airline pilot. What was really interesting and really quite remarkable is that once he started the journey and he began taking his time and taking the steps towards his goal, his obsession started to grow over time. Now, let's continue to concentrate on this obsession question. If you had a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is you were totally obsessed with where you're going with your family, with your life, with your firm, and with your clients, what score would you give yourself so far? And if at the end of this, you could increase that, what would you increase it to? If you're a 6, would you like to be a 7? If you're a 3, would you like to be a 4, 5, or 6, or 7? If you're a 7, would you like to be a 9? Having an obsession and doing the things to move towards it take a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of style. And we're going to show you in a moment a video that you can see here on the screen. We're going to loop back to that in a second and share with you a real secret of success that will set you up not only with this module, but all of the modules we're still yet to do on this exciting Firm Excellence program. First of all, though, before we start our journey, let's take a quick recap of some of the things you could have done by now. Whether these things are, of course, on your windscreen, or whether they are things you are still thinking of doing and getting started with, may I just encourage you, just very quickly, to go back to your thought binder go back to your thought book, look at some of the things you've committed to action. Look at some of the things you've committed to, of course, changing in your life and in your firm. And of course, look at some of the things you decided to either teach or transform to others. And I want to encourage you to continue to take those small steps right now in your firm. Whether it's the differentiation from the very beginning in what you say about yourself, how you use words and language in your life and in your business and with your customers. Whether it's the range of blockbuster networking tools we shared with you, that opening one-liner, that way of introducing yourself at major events, or the format model on how you talk about why, what, how, and if, either selling, talking, communicating, or asking questions. Whether it's your use of the mind changes or looking right into the future and really planning the strategic alignment of your firm, all of those things. Have you taken enough time between December and now to make sure that you've mapped out the whole of 2017? I want to encourage you to take the time to do that. And as we start to look at this really, I think, excellent video, and I want to tell you a little bit about it before I click play. I have to say, there are so many things you have to make sure every day as a leader, as an owner, as a colleague, and as somebody serving a firm and building a practice that you must never leave to chance. You must always make sure is deliberate. And after this video, we're going to move into the ICANN product a little bit and share with you a couple of insights of why it's called ICANN and how you use the ICANN symbolism to apply it to your firm. The chap in this video I'm about to share with you is by the name of Dr. Eric Thomas. Eric Thomas was born in Chicago, Illinois. He grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and after deciding to move on from his parents, he dropped out of high school, lived homeless for a while, and moved to Detroit for 2 years. He's famous for turning his life around by taking a job at Michigan University. And he decided to become a master in K-12 administration. And he attended the MSU, and he focused on educational leadership. He worked as an academic advisor to disadvantaged students. And in fact, in this video, you're going to see him doing that in something he developed as a secondary strand to his career. Having gone through all of his degrees and getting up to master's degree and a PhD in education administration, he started to work on becoming a motivational speaker. He's known for working within the church circuit. He's very closely linked to LeBron James, and of course, has been involved in lots of different things. In this video, he's sharing a message to a load of youths. And he says something to these youths that I think is absolutely outstanding. He uses a tale that I've shared many times with leadership groups all over the world. But I particularly like this video, and we're going to spend a few minutes watching this because I think it says so many positive things that even I today, as a coach, have to remind myself to keep applying day in, day out, focused every single day. Now, of course, with that in mind, let's watch this video as he shares one of the greatest secrets of success. I really appreciate the feedback live on the call that you're unable to hear the video. So we're going to make sure that that video is available for you to watch in your own time. And I'll tell you what the story is about myself in a moment's time. Now, what's exciting about this video, it's part of a 20-minute video. We were only going to play about 5 or 6 minutes today live on this call. So by having it in the Firm Excellence available for you, you'll be able to watch the whole thing. And I want to encourage you, it's quite an incredible subject, watching him interact with these students who, as you can imagine, are sat there in the room, feeling all hip and feeling all strong and powerful, is quite an exciting thing for you to watch. Now, the other thing about this for a minute is that I want to just share with you what he was telling these students. The students are sat in the room wondering how they can improve their grades and all kinds of things. And he makes some really intelligent suggestions. And then he tells a story. And the story goes a little bit like this. A man went up to a guru, and he asked this guru a very simple question. He said, what is the secret to life? What is the secret to absolute success? Then the guru said to the young man, he said, tell me, how much do you want to know this? He said, I really want to know it more than anything in this world. So the guru said, come back tomorrow and meet me down at the ocean, and we'll go and find out what the secret to success really, really is. Imagine it was you walking down to the ocean's edge. He goes down the next day and he meets the guru at the side of the sea. And as they walk out into the sea, he said, let's come with me. They start walking out into the sea. First things first, they walked up to around about chest height. And you can imagine the man staring at the guru going, well, what are we doing this for? Why are we doing this? He walked out a little bit further till it was up to his shoulders, and a little bit further till it was up to his neck. The guru, who was slightly taller than the man, waited until they stood square facing each other, and he said, right, are you ready? Fortunately, the sea was quite calm that day. The guru reached out and said, I'd like to show you. He grabbed the man by the head and he forced him under the water. The man was a bit curious as to why he did that. The guru held him under and held him under and held him under. The man, struggling for air, pushes his way to the surface and says, what was that all about? The guru stands back, still in the deep water. Do you have any idea or revelation as to why we did that? The man said no. So the guru said, reset yourself. And they went again. He grabbed him and he pushed him back into the water another time, this time using even more of his mental strength and his power and his physical physique to hold him right under the surface, forcing him to really, really struggle to breathe. And after a few minutes, what seemed like an eternity, the man managed to find something within himself to break completely free. He said to the guru, after coughing and spluttering out water, why did you do that? He said, tell me, what was the only thing that crossed your mind whilst you were under the water? The man said, I needed to breathe. The guru stopped and said, at last, you have seen the secret to success. He said, when you want success in your life, as much as you desire to just breathe, you will know what it takes to achieve all of the goals that you have for your future. Now, I'm an asthmatic as a coach and as a man and as a sportsman, and I have to tell you, I know what it's like to feel that urge to breathe. I'd like to tell you what it's like for a moment of when you walk into the lakeside at the side of a lake and you're in your wetsuit and you're going into cold water to go and do some open door swimming. There's something that happens to you as you go through that biological process. It's quite disturbing. That is a condition of doing those type of things. In that first 15 to 20 seconds, when you set off to swim, and I'm talking to you from a personal experience here, and I'm sure for some people it takes longer, and for other people it takes less time. But in that first 20 seconds in cold water, when you're submerging yourself, doing the breaststroke in that deep water, and you're setting off and it's cold, your chest clams up and it freezes a little bit, and you suddenly become aware that the cold is impacting what your lungs are doing. And it reminds me as a swimmer, and a new swimmer, really, that in those conditions, I have to get ready to talk myself through in my head how to carry on and how to continue and how to work out. No, Dave, follow the instructions you were taught. Continue to do the mental techniques that allow you to stay focused at that point in time. That urge to breathe in those conditions makes a lot of sense. Let's apply this back, though, to the question I asked you just a little while ago. How much of an obsession do you have for your life, for your firm, for the things that you really want to do in your future? Having an obsession is a critical ingredient to be really successful in your business. Having an obsession helps you draw on inspiration. It helps you draw on the things you really want to do. And most importantly, it totally influences how you see yourself and how you see others around you. When we look at the ICANN model, the I in ICANN stands for influence. It's an absolute fact. It's critical that in order to influence others, you first have to influence ourselves. Now, I want to pause for a moment. I'd like to invite you all here on this call today to just hear me as I say something really quite deliberate. I, which is me, influencing myself, or in your case, I is you. The I to influence is fundamentally your responsibility. You and I, in my case, we are the answer. It is up to you to set your mindset every single day. Whether you're a colleague, whether you're a leader, it makes no difference. It's your decision. It's making choices. Your mindset that you hold with you on a day-to-day basis requires the discipline that you need if you choose to use it. A mind being set is why the word mindset exists in the first place. Now, as we look at this in a little bit more detail and we apply this, I'd like to share with you a really simple process that we keep firmly fixed up on our cockpit here and our windscreen in RLC every day of the week. And I'd like to share with you the tale of two triangles. Now, this video doesn't require any sound. So again, as we play this, hopefully as it describes, you'll start to see all of it playing up nicely on the video. We use triangles a lot in the life of Real Leadership Coaching to bring some simple principles to life. And in this case, we're going to show you two. Triangle 1 and, of course, Triangle 2. For the last time in this program, let's talk about a fundamental truth that sits at the heart of RLC and sits at the heart of all that we do. It's the belief triangle, which rests with you. In everything that you do in life, in business, and with your clients, you have a whole host of choices. Whether that's to believe in your ability, whether that's to believe in the growth that you aspire to have in your firm, they all are going to force you to decide whether you think you can, or in this case, whether you think you can't. Our beliefs are a fundamental part of whether we're successful or whether we're not. One of the things we always get asked at RLC is, do you build attitude, Dave? Do you help us come up with positive mental associations? And we always say back to clients who ask us that, no, we don't. One of the things that we do is we focus solely on building beliefs in a firm, building beliefs in the people we interact with and coach. What's the difference, though, between both of these words? You'll notice it. It's deleting the T. You see, when you were able to delete the T in the first triangle and you start to decide to have beliefs that are going to help you, we can then look at the other elements of this situation. Your brain has three fuel tanks. It has an emotional fuel tank. It has a physical fuel tank. And it also has a spiritual fuel tank, which we'll come to in a second. Now, physical isn't just about training. Training is one of the things I'm going to talk to you about in a moment. Spiritual, though, is your thought life. What is it you actually say to yourself? I often think when people ask me, what does this mean? Do you know when you're alone at night and you're in your bed and you're sitting there thinking, whatever thoughts you're thinking, maybe you're reflecting back on the day you had. Maybe you're reflecting back on how you're feeling about things that are happening in your life. Whatever it is that you're doing, it's that moment in time of, are you at peace with your thoughts? Now let's take a little closer look at some of these areas for a moment. You see, the physical mindset includes looking at things quite differently, such as, just load up this for a moment, your fuel gauges. Your physical mindset and your physical fuel gauge has to be paid into. Each fuel gauge, just like in your car, runs on fuel. If you put fuel in, you can use it. If you don't, you cannot. Hopefully no one on this call has been through what I did many years ago and actually run out of diesel. I'm sure that's happened to nobody else other than me. And that feeling you have when you go to press the accelerator and the car is empty and it just glides to a complete halt. Now, if you're like I am, you probably felt like a little bit of a fool at that point in time. Physical, though, isn't just about training and how much you do exercise, and that, of course, is important. It's also our nutrition. It's what are you feeding your physical side? It's also, are you resting enough? I was talking to a physical trainer just the other day about the choice of being sore or the choice of being sorry. When you do exercise for the first time for absolutely ages, or you've left it for quite a while, you're almost guaranteed to feel some type of pain or aching, even after maybe a very simple thing, such as a long walk. The sorry part relates to an alternative view, usually because you didn't go. Maybe you planned to go to the gym and you didn't, and later that day you give yourself a little bit of a hard time going, well, maybe I should have done that. Maybe you stayed in for a meal or you had a glass of wine instead. I know myself, I've done this many, many times. The thing is, though, the pain is the reward because it's a sign, and most people don't realize this. It's a sign of your body adjusting and getting ready to develop new muscle memory in order to produce more energy, to give you more time, to be more at your best, and to be more alert. Each fuel tank needs fuel to enable you to be at your best, to have a choice on the effects that you have. The other fuel tank that I'd like to talk to you about is quite an important one, and it's your emotional fuel tank. Have you ever felt exhausted after an extreme emotional experience or bad news? Have you ever had a difficult review with one of your team and you've gone through to the office afterwards thinking, wow, I feel tired? And have you ever wondered why that's the case? You see, you probably didn't realize, until like I did a couple of years ago, that your emotional fuel tank requires real harvesting and real nurturing and real taking care of. You see, when your emotional fuel tank is low or at mid-table, you're more likely to be less effective with the people you lead, coach, or work with. It's usually driven by four main areas. Our emotional fuel tank relies on our thoughts. It constantly looks back and reflects on our memories, good or bad, the dreams we still have, and our feelings. This fuel tank is filled by positive experiences in each of the areas, and this is the secret to continuously putting fuel in. You can, of course, fill this with the wrong fuel. You know, I don't know if anyone's done this. I know that somebody really close to me, that some of you have met, did this once, who had a diesel car and put unleaded fuel in it. Now, of course, when that happens, you have to correct the procedure. The thing is, though, this case, the wrong fuel is negative thinking. And if you're somebody who has negative thinking as a default setting, the secret, of course, is to finish the thoughts off with a positive solution. Over the last few modules, we've looked at some incredible tools to help you put positive fuel in your emotional fuel tank. Mind Changers is a brilliant tool to do this. Affirmations are critical. If you use affirmations, they are a brilliant tool to help you build your self-esteem. Choosing to remember and record, discuss, recall, gather with friends and family all of the great memories you've ever had over a glass of wine or some social time together or in the office are brilliant ways to pour in even more fuel into this fuel tank. It's quite a human thing to think of the cynical side or the negative angle or the things that you're disappointed with. Using your choices to build up our feelings or to pay into this fuel tank is a daily discipline that always pays back. Surrounding yourself by people who believe in you, who have always got your back and want the best for you and have lots of talents that complement you is another good way to pay into this fuel tank. A personal technique that I use every day that I find has served me so well is one that I use called linking together positive words. Here are the words that every morning, just before I do my teeth, I tend to think about whilst I'm doing things. I'm going to share them with you. Before I do, though, and I'm going to repeat this in a moment, each word that I share with you, I have an amazing memory for each of them that pays directly into my fuel gauge. Here's the first one: loving. As a man who likes to be strong and reliable, I have to remind myself to always make sure that I'm loving. I have a great memory that's very personal to me that pays in great energy into the fuel tank. Here's another one: whole. W-H-O-L-E. There's something magical about that whole word, feeling whole and complete. Strong. When I was very young, I suffered from something called myalgic encephalitis, otherwise known as ME. In short, it taught me what it was like to live with and suffer from being very, very weak. I've been blessed and I'm very lucky that I've recovered fully from this during my lifetime. And I like to anchor down and remind myself of what it feels like to be strong. I have a memory associated to strong. Here's another one: powerful. Another word: caring. Another: authentic. These 6 words are critical to me in what I do on a day-to-day basis as a coach, associating a word that I visualize with an image every single time. And it only takes a few seconds once you program these into your longer-term memory. I have an old saying that I add as the 7th element, and it's called, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, many people ask me, Dave, why do you say that? You see, the mantra reminds me of a really simple principle. We are all designed to be who we are meant to be, our natural, original self. All of these techniques are designed to bring clarity and to build a base for choices in your life. It's about paying into the fuel tanks that you have. I mean, are you self-aware of your own needs in this space? Do you pay into these fuel tanks in order to sustain your personal energy? And not only that, for the demands that are required of you in your firm, in your family, and with your friends. You see, when you realize paying into fuel tanks makes the difference, you can run for longer, you can be more effective, and it really enables you to maximize all of the potential that you do have and are born with for you, your firm, and of course, all of your clients. So when we talk about, of course, from earlier, the power of working on your own influence to influence yourself, when we talk about having choices, which is the second part, of course, of this message so far today, here are 2 choices that at RLC we make every day. Are you deleting the T? Are you being a can person? And even when you're unsure, are you taking the time to apply the lessons of Triangle 2? paying in the fuel into those fuel gauges? When you're engaging with others, do you always make sure that you place relationship ahead of content? Now let's explore that for a moment. Whether it's your team, whether you're at a networking event, or even at a conference, put in the connection, which means connecting with and building a relationship with the other person over and above the content being what it is they're actually talking about. Our responses are determined by the choices that we make and not, of course, reacting. When you put all of these things together, they start to do something really quite incredible. And those things are called our attitudes. You'll see on the screen, there's a series of words which I'm going to relate to in a moment. An attitude is formed based on the beliefs that we hold. You've heard during Firm Excellence an awful lot of wonderful messages about how to build and have great, really great beliefs in your life. There are usually, though, several things that can get in the way. Our attitude is primed by all of these elements you can see in front of you. There's two, though, I'd like to immediately draw your attention to. That first word, worry. Can I ask you for a moment to calculate right now the answer to the following question? Of all the things you have ever worried about in your whole life, what percentage of them actually came true? Let's just pause for a second. You see, I'd like to share with you that every time I ask this to a group of professionals live in a workshop, and we literally stop and say, how much of that worry actually came true? We're lucky if we get to 1%. That's an amazing statistic. 99% of all things worried about never actually materialize. You see, worry left running wild in your mind is destructive. Yet, when you ask yourself, what is the positive intention of worry? Let me tell you what it is. The positive intention of worry is to get your attention. Your brain is saying to you, get my attention. It gets your attention to work out the solution to the unresolved matters. That's right. At RLC, we have found that in almost all cases, worry literally is the output of unfinished thinking or plans. If you're a worrier or have warriors in your team, help them to start solving things. The other word is stress. Stress is a real condition that is managed greater by your thoughts more than anything else. There is a video by Kelly McConaughey that was on a TEDx, aired in Edinburgh a couple of years ago. And it demonstrates what are arteries, and just in case my accent's in the way, arteries as in your veins that pump the blood around your system. It demonstrates what they do as a result of stress and anxiety. We're going to put that video just as a one-off into the Firm Excellence this weekend. Kelly McConaughey's an American lady. She's a superb talent, and you really should hear what she has to say about it. It will genuinely change your view. In short, stress managed properly with great thoughts, along with help and support, can be controlled and managed really quickly. I mean, the other one on here, of course, is videos. How often do you stop and watch a positive video so that you can influence your senses and be at your best for others? At RLC, we watch videos regularly, not only to see what's going on in the world, it's also to identify and challenge ourselves, both internally and externally, to be more at our best. We want to encourage you to build solid foundations. Put your attitude not down to chance, build it upon the beliefs. I'd like to send you some homework that links back to the thought binder. And I want to ask you to do the homework on the following areas. I'd like to ask you to write down a belief statement about yourself in every role in your life. May I give you some examples? If you're a firm owner, a payroll vault owner, what's the belief you have about your success in that role? If you're a colleague, what is the belief you hold about what type of colleague that you are? When you're networking, what is the belief you hold about your ability to network? As a leader, what is your leadership belief about yourself? As a family member, father, mother, sister, brother, friend, what are the beliefs that you hold about yourself in these areas? Spouse, and of course, professional. As a professional person who's done really great things being part of this program so far, investing and being part of your own future, what are the beliefs you hold about yourself as a professional? I mean, have you still decided yet what it is you want to be known for and what are the changes you want to make? You see, what we're sharing with you today is a fundamental lesson from within inside the suite of RLC. If you want more help or support with creating, building, and harnessing your beliefs, reach out to us at RLC. Whether it's Dave at rlc-global.com, info@rlc-global.com, or talking to us via social media, get in touch. We would be delighted to work out a coaching solution to support you, or you can take our ICANN course. And I'm sure if you reach out to Debbie at rlc-global.com, she'd be delighted to sort that out. Either way, though, take the time to get your thoughts in order, because after all, as the slide says, we are what we think. We experience beliefs through our thoughts. Now let's pause for a moment and look back at today's module so far. Already, we've done quite a lot. You see, when you take the ICANN philosophy and you start applying this to the beliefs you hold in your life, I equals influence. C equals choices. I can, I see. A is your attitude. N is for now. Now means, what action are you taking? I can, I is influence. C is your choices. A is your attitude built on rock solid, foundational beliefs in your life. And N is now, is taking action today. As you've heard us say before, and I'm happy to let you know again, knowledge without application is frankly simply pointless. Be somebody who takes action from the start. As we move to the end of this module today, I'd like to share with you one last video. And I'd like to share with you a really simple success formula that when applied will have a huge effect in your business, with your people, and of course, in firm excellence. This formula is made up of some simple letters. It's a success formula that we've taught all over the world. And of course, when you apply it literally in your head, in your communication, and in your business, it makes a big difference in almost all situations that you find yourself in. First things first, write down on a blank note page in your thought binder the following formula: S plus C minus I equals O. We will all find ourselves in the midst of a whole range of different scenarios in the workplace, situations of all sorts. We then have choices to make in every situation that we find ourselves in. One of the critical things that often gets in the way is a word called interference. Interference stops us from focusing on the critical outcomes that are most important above all else. Our ability to deal with interference, which means turning off internal chatting, internal talking, being more focused on what your thoughts are saying to you when you should be listening to the other person, are small, subtle changes that when you make them, transform the way you listen, transform the way you communicate, and make you much more effective in your job. Let's take a look at this formula one more time. Here it is. The interference gets in the way. Also, interference can be another person. You sometimes yourself might be the interference. We were with a company the other day, and we were talking to the very frontline troops of this company. And in this firm, they serve customers. The people serving the customers were sat there really speaking quite out of turn, rudely, about the customers they serve. As a coach, very quickly, we asked them to realign that mindset because they were sharing and building rapport by talking about customers in an interfering way. You see, interference stops you from thinking clearly. There are lots of ways to build and of course, manage your own interference and control it to be a much more successful business owner and, of course, professional. But think about all the situations you find yourself in, whether you're doing coaching, whether you're doing communicating, whether you're doing a one-to-one, whether you're doing a client meeting. Let's simplify this for a moment. What about relationship situations? How you are with your family? How you are when you leave your office and go home? What about eating? Food you choose to eat? What about connecting? People you choose to meet? People you have set views over who maybe have changed and you haven't realized yet? All of these situations, whatever they are, we are forced to consider the word choices. Choices is, of course, the secret. Having more choices to more situations across your life and in your business life increases your opportunity to achieve the outcomes that you want. I'd like you to imagine for a moment that you're stood in the middle of this formula, in between the S and the O. And if you were stood there and you imagine that, of course, the S is on your left, the O is on your right, and you're looking at it going, okay, here's the situation I'm in. Here's the outcome I really want to get. What are the choices I need to make in order to do that? That's how the formula works. It gives you a platform to really consider both the choices you make, the impact you can have, and the outcome that you've always wanted to achieve. Putting this together in a way that you can really utilize it is relatively straightforward. As with anything though, and of course, in line with the ICANN model, building up your own influence on yourself, becoming more effective at your own state control, which means managing your mindset, building up the right belief strategies in every hat that you wear in your life and in your firm, and of course, having the right attitude and taking the action daily brings this formula to life every day in your firm. I know what you're probably thinking. There's a lot today to really start to think and process. And we're asking you within this to really, really get your head together and start applying some of these lessons in your life. Managing your mindset, managing your state, and being at one and being the most effective in any situation is the gift that every professional is pursuing. Now I'm going to move over to question and answers in a moment's time, and we're going to come out of the main presentation. And of course, Sean, I believe you're still live with us, so we're going to bring the camera back on. And as we do that, I just want to open up the question time. And as we're doing that here, I have Debbie sat beside me. Her camera's off, but she is with me. So if there are questions going around, I know, Debbie, you have that up live on the screen as well. Sean, starting with you, what are your thoughts about some of the things we've talked about today and shared in the ICANN module of Firm Excellence?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So the note I have here is, I've done quite a bit of business coaching and for myself, for people coaching me and been in thought groups, I find it interesting how you're mixing personal journey with business journey, and it's very, very well done. And I'm just, that question came to my head is, how much of our business lifestyle is directed on our personal skills and goals and vision? It seems you're presenting this in a way that is so aligned, which is very interesting.
I think it's a great observation, Sean. I think that I was writing a piece this morning about that very fact, ironically, about the importance, and it's a tried and tested principle that, of course, the more settled you are in your personal space, even in a challenging life where maybe you're facing like tragedy or difficult things, it doesn't really make much difference. You being settled in that situation, whether it's calm or stormy, doesn't matter. Being settled is the important part, and being at one with yourself, being comfortable that you're doing what you're designed to do, or you're doing things that satisfy who you are as a person and your style. If you get that in order, it almost complements your working life, because you drag it into the working place. Equally, it can work the other way around. So you can find yourself being so settled at work, you become more effective in your personal space. And what I find as a coach personally, Sean, it doesn't matter whether you're the most senior person in the world in a company, or whether you're a senior manager starting out, or in your first supervisory role, or running a series of companies. One of the things I know is this: being in a really strong mental space personally assists your work life. Being decluttered in your personal space. Another myth that probably many people haven't heard about: decluttering, getting things finished, particularly at the start of a year that you said last year, getting it all done and having a clear view, like the picture behind us here in Colorado up on the screen here, is as important as having that balance between personal and work also. And what other observations did you have, Sean? And before I open this up to the panel and any questions that are out there.
No, my only other thought that I had is, one of my goals is to share something with somebody every day, just kind of a general thought. So I sent a message to two of my friends to be obsessed with life. One of them actually called me the other day and said he's just been having a tough time. And he texted me back already and said, thanks, needed a little bit of a boost. And then the other person, it's kind of funny because he is obsessed with life, and he's on a journey that's very in capturing with other people. And I sent him a note and said, hey, you're on this path. It's really cool to see you're obsessed with cool things in life.
And I'd like to actually turn what you've just shared there, Sean, into a firm excellence challenge this week. So to everybody in the call, I'd like to ask you to do something a little bit different. I'm going to share with you an example. I was in Starbucks just yesterday. And while I was in Starbucks, I had a free drink on my phone that was expiring. So I went up to the lady at the counter and she scanned my phone. I said, look, I've paid for my drink now, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to give away my free drink, which was a grande something. I said to somebody random in the queue. Now, a rule I like to apply is that it has to be once I've left. So I don't like to do it when somebody's in. So I like to do it when I've left. So we said, okay, let's do this. And she took the scan. She said, I'll give that to somebody later on. And it's a simple example of adding value to somebody in a nice way. But I'd like us to take it a step further at Firm Excellence. I'd like to ask everybody on the call and anyone who watches this later on to do a single pay it forward task. Do it because it's going to give somebody some energy, something different. They'll wonder, well, why did you do that? And if they know you've done it, then just ask them to do the same thing. If they don't know you've done it and you're not there, just rest in the fact that they'll never know, but you've done something to add value to them. It's one of those nice gestures, whether it's calling somebody up, Sean, and encouraging them, or listening to them, or they're in a bit of distress and you reach out and say, listen, I'm here with you, and you're helping them as a positive interference. You're influencing them because you could see it's going to help, or whether it's doing an act of kindness. I'd like to challenge Firm Excellence this week to actually execute that between now and the next call. And I'd love to hear in the notes next week some of the examples of what things people decided to do and the ripple effect that started. So I just want to throw over to Debbie here. She sat beside me. Have you noticed any of the questions coming up? Are there any questions from anybody out there on the call that they'd like to ask us about this week's module? So thank you, Jessica. It's very kind, shouting out that she's affirmed that she's enjoying this and is loving the Firm Excellence formula. Thank you very much for that feedback. I'd like to also reaffirm myself that the lovely thing in ICANN is that there are things that you've just got to take the time to do. And John, I know what you're like, but you know when someone says to you, what are your beliefs? And you sit there thinking for the first time when you're asked, what are they? You have to stop and take the mirror time, the mirror in the car, and just say, okay, what do I think? How am I doing? What do I really want to be? Am I stacking up against what I set out to be? Should I be doing better? And what are the changes I could and should make if I really want to be that person? It can be quite daunting, Sean, the first time you do that type of thing, can't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
It's also something I've experienced that it can be quite procrastinating. People like to sometimes put it off and say, I'll do that later, or I'll go and plan to do that. And I want to encourage you as a coach that you have to do that there and then. You have to say, that's the time I'm doing it, and I won't give that time up to something else. Because the power of the clarity in your own personal DNA, when you stop and say, my beliefs are, my thoughts are, my mission is, the bit that makes me come alive is this, the value I add the most are these type of things. When you know, it gives you a much clearer definition to be able to say, yes, I can do that. Yes, I will do that. And of course, bring the gift that you were born with to the world in a much more powerful way. So again, I'm just going to ask if there's any more questions that are out there across. I believe Malvina's just joined us. Hi, Malvina. And your mic is currently off. Malvina, do you have any questions today you'd like to ask?
I just had an observation, Dave. I love what you shared about the beliefs, and I strongly believe that they are shaping our actions. And since my area is sales and marketing, I just wanted to emphasize how important it is to really be self-aware of those beliefs. I know that myself, I was there once when I had to sell, and one of my limiting beliefs was that I was always thinking that I was interrupting someone, that people didn't want to hear from me, and that belief really was stopping me in my tracks. So no matter what goals I was setting for myself, or what skills I had, or what tools were available to me, it was really hard for me to pick up that phone and make that call, because the belief that was running the show was that I'm interrupting. They don't want to hear from me. And it took some coaching, very much like working with you. It was working with my mom, who's a coach, but it definitely changed everything. And I'm sure Sean noticed the difference, because suddenly I was closing 10 deals a month, and that all started with my mind. So I've seen it in my life, in many areas of my life, that whenever something's not working, I always go back to, okay, what is it that is running the show? What do I believe in? What is stopping me? And the moment you are really self-aware of what it is, you can actually do something about it, and you can analyze it and see, is it really the truth? And the truth was, people did want to hear from me. They were busy. They appreciated my follow-up, and eventually my tenacity paid off. But it was all in my head, and I was my biggest enemy. So I encourage you to do this exercise and definitely take a peek at that, because we're all using the framework for success and starting year strong, setting all sorts of goals and ambitious goals. But we're not going to get anywhere unless we clear it up here. So I appreciate
You're absolutely right. And I love it. I'll give you a quick example that relates directly to what you said. I was working with a company over here in England, and with a buying team and selling team, and two different teams, two different firms. And they've been communicating predominantly via email. And there was this belief that they couldn't get hold of the other people. People weren't returning calls. They weren't returning emails and so on. But what's interesting is the call one was a non-belief. It was incredible. They were only emailing. So I was with him one day. I said, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll sit with you and see what it's like. And then we sat there in this office. So I said, I've got this really mad idea, Malvina. I said, I've got this really crazy idea. Why don't you pick the phone up and just ring the sellers and ring the buyers in different companies? And they literally started using the phone. And Sean, can you believe what happened?
No, I think it's funny. They started.
Somebody answered the phone. And suddenly this whole belief strategy of, oh, they're not talking to us was all caused by using the wrong communication medium. And when they actually used the telephone, the buyers and sellers started talking again, and you know what happens after that. They started buying and selling stuff. And as ridiculous as that is, I'm sat there going, it can't be this simple, truly, phoning somebody up like that. But whether it's a belief change about your own perspective, do you need to have more confidence? You need to be believing that you can get the success, or whether it's doing something small different. All of those things come together. I think do we have any more questions? Okay, great. So I've loved today. Thank you all so much for your input. I'm going to encourage you to go back to your thought binder. I want you to think about all the questions you've asked. You can play this back, of course, from the firmexcellencecourse.com. Take the time to do that. Take the time to apply your belief strategies and to get those things right. And I really look forward to seeing you on the next edition and installment of Firm Excellence. Once again, thank you from all of us at RLC. Thank you, Sean. See you next time.